beyond achievement and into impact? Welcome to Legacy Her Way. This is the podcast where we explore how women define and build legacy on their own terms. I'm Tanya Hendrix, I'm your host, and legacy isn't just about what we leave behind someday. It's about the choices we're making right now, who we're building for, what we're building, and what we're preserving, and how we're creating peace of mind and margin along the way. Today's conversation is with Meaghan Chitwood, who's bringing a story shaped by experience, connection, and some clarity. We're talking about legacy beyond the resume and what truly matters in this season of life. So wherever you're listening, whether you're driving, folding laundry, taking just a moment to yourself, I hope you hear something from Meaghan's story in this conversation. It's going to reflect your own journey. All right, so let's get started. Meaghan Chitwood is the Executive Director of BNI Alabama. She is a connector and growth strategist helping businesses scale. She also has her own podcast called From Overlooked to Consistently Booked. I'm excited to dive in with Meaghan today because I'm really fascinated by her story that she started as a civil engineer and she is now the queen of networking in Alabama. I'm just curious how that's going to happen. I can't wait to hear how that happened. So Meaghan, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
I'm excited that you're here because I can't wait to hear your story. We hear a lot of engineers don't like the networking, don't like the talking to other people. They just want to get in their little bubble. So I can't wait to hear the story of how you pivoted and you're now, honestly, the queen of networking in Alabama. So we're going to get there. But what I want to know first is, one of the things we talk about in Legacy Her Way is your definition of legacy or your definition of success. What does that look like in this season of your life?
So, interestingly enough, I have a birthday tomorrow. So
happy birthday.
It's a great opportunity to talk about this because I do think about it around this time every single year. I don't think success is just business, first of all. I learned actually when I worked at Chevron as an engineer, I sat down with several different women because I was wondering if that was the career path that I ultimately wanted to take. And I knew that talking to other women about how they have done it within that company was important. And I'll never forget when a woman I sat down with said, I will never get another promotion ever again. And she was really high in the organization. And I was like, what is it? Competency? Like, what is it? She says, my husband works at the refinery, so he can't leave. So I have become the primary caregiver of our children.
Oh, wow.
And so I can't, I have to make sure that my children are taken care of first. So I can't put the company first. And that was super defining for me. Mm-hmm. And at that point in time, I actually said, success for me is to be able to contribute to my household and have the freedom to stay home with my children if I choose. Now, fast forward, I did 3 months of maternity leave and was like, I do not choose. I'm going to be a much better mama if I am doing my business stuff too, because this does not fulfill my whole entire life. But that really became my definition of success was, how do I do that? Now, I also have, I don't know if it's responsibility strength or extreme ownership. There's a book called that. It nails me, extreme ownership. I have extreme ownership around whatever my outcomes are. And so that also helps me know if I'm going to jump into something, I'm going to do it. I want to do it well. I really want to do it well. I always want to, one of the things I tell my children, I always want to be the best that I can be. And so I'm always just working on trying to be the best I can be. And honestly, I think if I do enough of those things in the moment, the legacy part just will take care of itself because I'll have helped enough people. My children will hopefully be awesome human beings in the end and all those kinds of things so that, again, at the end, one person once told me, if you think about it, after 2 generations, basically your legacy is gone, unless you're like a Rockefeller or something like that, right? They've written books about you or whatever. I'm not going to be somebody that they write books about. So it's, after 2 more generations, I'm going to be somebody's, great grandmother that they once heard about and all those kinds of things. So if I can pass down those values to the next people in our family, then I think that's how I really build legacy.
Well, I want to talk about family because you're building legacy in your way, but you're also helping a family member build her legacy.
I am.
Tell us about that.
Okay, so my sister, Dr. Eleanor Murray, came to me about 4.5 years ago. And as I came to me, she just told the story, so I can tell it publicly as well. She literally was in tears, and she thought that I was at the soccer field. As we were talking about it yesterday, I said I was not at the soccer field. No, it was a 911 call. She was absolutely in tears. She was just like, I can't keep doing what I'm doing. And she's an OB-GYN. And she was just petrified that she was going to have a bad outcome when it came to a delivery. So she asked me, she said, hey, why don't people go gynecology only? I would love to just do gynecology. Like, why don't people do that around here? On and on and on. My answer, which would be the answer I would give any other business person, is like, I don't know. Let's explore it, right? Let's research. Let's do a financial plan. Let's do a business plan. Let's see if this would really work. And when we did the numbers, it worked. It worked for her legacy she wanted to build. She is not a doctor who wants to make $1 million a year. She's somebody who wants to, similar names. She wants to be there for her kids' games and all of those things. And so, yes, she opened in November of 24, and has just celebrated her 1-year anniversary. And she has a thriving business, which I think the biggest claim to fame is go look at doctors' Google reviews. She is a 4.9
Wow.
Google reviews because the clinic just turned out brilliantly. And it was her brainchild that I helped her as business owner, helped her implement.
Wonderful. Well, how did you come to be the go-to person for business? How did you go from being a civil engineer, mom for maternity leave and going, I'm not doing this anymore, and then now you are the queen, you're the executive director of BNI Alabama, your sister's calling you for business help, other people calling you for help. How did that transition happen?
So when I mentioned, talking to other women about what I wanted to be. So I have a very high freedom value. I want, like, my best day would be waking up, not having anything on my calendar, nobody tugging on me about anything, and I could just whimsically choose what I wanted to do that day. When you're working for a corporation, that just doesn't end up happening. Now, when you're in your own business, that doesn't end up happening either. But you have this illusion of freedom.
Right, exactly.
This illusion of I'm free, I can do whatever I want.
Yes.
So I identified that. I then identified, again, this was when I was 20 something. So I didn't get married until 30. So when I was 20 something, I really locked in on, I want to be able to contribute financially to a household, and I want to have the choice of staying home with your kids. The only way that that's possible is if you own a business.
Yeah.
And then I happened to read the book Cash Flow Quadrant by Robert Kiyosaki. And that book talks about the employee quadrant, self-employed quadrant, the business owner quadrant, and the investor. So self-employed, you get more freedom, but because you're not working for somebody else, but you're trading time for money. So that, employee didn't work, and self-employed didn't work because I didn't have the choice of staying home with my kids. And so I realized I have to figure out how to really create a business where I can have a system. That's what the book talks about. I can have a system that we run really, really well. And then I'm going to tell you, it was stars aligned, serendipity, God thing, whatever you want to call it, whatever you want to call it. So I went from engineer to my step into self-employment was to become a business coach. So I went to coaching school, got all that. They told me that I needed to network. And so I went out, I'm not kidding. It was before we Googled everything. Pretty sure it was a Yahoo search. And I searched, networking in my area, and I got a free report and delivered to me I was in the San Francisco Bay Area, been from Northern Alabama my whole life, but it was living in the San Francisco Bay Area at the time. And the report had everything in alphabetical order, and BNI was at the top because BNI starts with B. Pretty much how this goes, right? So I went to a chapter, and what I saw as a visitor was the brilliant integration of people and process. Because you've got this group of people who all want to help. Core value of givers gain. That's our motto. And then you turn around and you see this process of the chapter meeting where we tell each other what we want. And then at the end, we say what we've done for each other at the end. So there's this perfect system to help pull more referrals out of relationships. And so I immediately became a member, filled out my application on the first try. First visit, and then I got to the point where I could quit my corporate job, but couldn't live in the Bay Area, and I decided I was going to move home. So I moved back to Northern Alabama, and rejoined a chapter. I knew what I was looking for, right? So as I did that, I was visiting a bunch of chapters to figure out which one's the best fit for me. who has business to business in it, so focusing on business owners, all this kind of stuff. And then I ultimately found my chapter, but as I did, I bumped into a lot of directors, and I kept going, I'm not hunting. I know how this works. I'm trying to figure out where's my best fit. And so then they started getting curious about like, what's the best fit look like and all these kinds of things. And I was asked to be an ambassador. And then I was an ambassador. First meeting I showed up to, the executive director said, it's BNI is a franchise organization. The executive director said, I think I'm going to sell my stake in the organization. And I became the executive director for BNI.
Wow.
And that's literally, and now all of that happened in an 18-month period of time.
Wow.
Which was, and the story behind me, so she wanted to sell it, I'm going to try and make this could be like an entire podcast itself, so I'll make it super limited. But I had exhausted every opportunity to get the investment that I needed to buy it. I'm 20-something, I'm mid-20s. I probably had $10,000 of equity in my house. So like buying a business was not a normal go into a bank thing.
Yeah.
Went to my parents, they said, no way. They come from a long line of employees. It wasn't them. It was that they didn't understand me. It was me. And then I just divulged to one BNI member who happened to be a coaching client of mine. And he looked at me and said, I'll invest.
Wow.
And boom, that was it. And that's the quick journey. I think though, let me go back real quickly to when I was doing internships. And engineering, math, science always interests me. I love learning about something new. Mm-hmm. So when I looked at and I saw asphalt and concrete classes, I was like, what? There's an entire class about asphalt and an entire class about concrete? How interesting. Let me jump right in. So the lifelong learner in me kind of like locked me in there. But then I did internships and I realized I thought I wanted to design bridges. They sit in a room by themselves all day. Oh. No. I did an internship. I was like, no. Is there something that has more peopling in it? And so I ended up in a project management group. So I went back and changed my focus to project management. So so I think always I had more, like I probably wasn't your typical engineer in the first place, mm-hmm. but that's the quick journey that it took to become business owner.
Wow. As you were saying that, I kept thinking about something I read when I was doing the research on you. And it's that you went to the Alabama School of Math and Science, and you stated, so you did a tribute to Ann Bedsole, mm-hmm. end of last year. She passed away. For people who don't know, Ann Bedsole was really the force behind the Alabama School of Math and Science, which is a specialty school. I'll say a specialty school.
Yes, absolutely.
Best way to put it. But you wrote a tribute to Ann Bedsole after she passed away. And in that tribute, you mentioned how you were in high school, you were in school, you were wondering, is there anybody else like me? Is there anybody who is like you that you can relate to? You were not able to find your people, but when you got to the Alabama School of Math and Science, you found your people. And I hear that same theme kind of running through what you just talked about, is that you have to find your people. And how important, you talked about it being important when you were in high school, but how important is it to find your people to your success, whether it's in college or as you've talked about throughout your career, like you wanted to be with people, you wanted the job more peopling. So you wanted to be around people and finding the people that share some values that can help one another. So how important is that?
Critical, because that's what I've dedicated my life to, right?
Yes.
BNI is exactly that. I mean, I didn't actually connect that I was searching for that in high school. And then I also found it in BNI. So I am married to an engineer, purist. He designs things, right? Purist. I come home being a business owner talking about losing a client or gaining a client or, this conflict I had to resolve or any of those things. He's looking at me like, what do you want me to do with this? Or he gives me the engineering advice, which is not usually helpful. It's not the same world. We're not in the same world professionally. So I think it's critical. And I tell BNI members, like, you guys get me. I can call you up and say, oh my gosh, I just made an investment and I'm sweating it on the cash flow. Mm-hmm. Like, you understand that where other people don't necessarily. Right. And then I even found that recently when I'm like, okay, now BNI is big. Like it would be considered, it's not considered a big business, but it's considered a bigger business. Only 7% of companies get to the level that we are within it. And so I had to go find community around that. Like, I come to a BNI member and I'm like, I've got 44 people that I'm trying to manage here. Like, most people don't get that. And so I've now surrounded myself with a group of people who will get that too, so that I can just keep growing and just not feel so alone.
Yeah. Well, what is BNI? I mean, you mentioned kind of what some of the core values of BNI. You've mentioned a little bit about it, but exactly what is it for people who've never heard of BNI?
Yes. So we put together groups of small business owners and sales professionals to pass business to one another, to just create referral generation. And a couple things that make it special. Number one, we only have one person per profession in each chapter. So there's one real estate agent, there's one mortgage lender, there's one HVAC guy, there's one of everything. So that allows us to build extreme loyalty to one another. And then secondarily, we have this process, right? I mentioned earlier. So we have a weekly presentation that is an agenda that we get business done. It's either, every piece of it is either about building up somebody's credibility, communicating what somebody wants in a referral, or a little bit of accountability on, am I passing referrals ultimately? And then we try to attract people into our community that have core values of, givers gain and building relationships and positive attitude, traditions plus innovation. Like, how do you keep your traditions of your company, but then innovate as the world changes? Recognition and accountability. And so if those values really resonate with people, you are going to love being a part of the community, because that's what we appreciate. And then, like I said, last year we did $63 million worth of business.
Wow.
With BNI members' businesses last year. Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
How can people get involved in BNI?
So across the world, you can go to BNI.com and you can take a look and find a chapter there. If you are hyper local to I use Northern Alabama loosely. I tell everyone, somebody in California broke up our state because Birmingham does not identify as Northern Alabama. So from Shelby County north, if you're out Shelby County or north, Tuscaloosa County as well. And you can go to northern.bnialabama.com. You can also just contact us and we can help you find the right chapter. That's one of the things I think is really important, is identifying where is going to be the best fit for the opportunity my business has. And that goes into, am I surrounded by people who also talk to my customer on a regular basis? So when I was looking for a chapter, I was looking for business people. And then also, just, is that the vibe? You get a group of people together, they have a vibe. You got to figure out where your vibe fits with other people's vibes. So I always recommend people visit several chapters if they're not tied to a human who is in BNI already, and see where the best fit's going to be for them.
Okay. Legacy Her Way is proudly sponsored by Huntsville Estate Planning Lawyer, because legacy isn't just about wealth, it's about protecting your family, your vision, and everything you've worked for. Build boldly, preserve it wisely. So when you started making the transition from being the civil engineer, mom, and then an entrepreneur, and as you mentioned, your family, your parents, they're all employees. So there were no entrepreneurs, nobody really understood you. What belief about yourself had to change for this version of your life to exist?
So, great question. I don't know if it's something that had to change. So one of the things I love always learning more about myself, and Strength Finders is a great tool to help you learn more about yourself. And one of my top strengths is actually self-assurance. So I work really hard to feel really confident about something. And so I think mine was sort of natural self-assurance of like, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to do whatever it takes to figure it out. I think you do have to have that. You have to have that kind of oomph when you're looking something of like, I am so passionate about this and I want to figure it out. And that's where it really lies. Or I am so good at this, I want to share it with other people. That's where I think you tend to win. But I was talking to several people yesterday, and I'm wondering, I am really wondering how many of us feel forced into it. Because I talked to two business owners yesterday, and both of them felt forced into building the business. Wow. And one was a health scare. The other one was I can't operate within the construct of what I was in before. So I'm wondering how much of it is a push and how much of it is a pull. But I will tell you one thing. I did have one tool that I used that I think really, really helped. And it's a visioning process. Lois Weinblatt was my vision coach She walked me through, picture 5 years into the future. What do you want your life to look like? What do you want it to be? And we went into painstaking detail, up to and including, I want a stereo receiver that fits in our cabinet. I mean, that's what came up during the entire thing. I mean, I laughed. I was like, you really put that in there? She said, yes. And ironically, my husband bought one a month later. I mean, it was the wildest thing ever. So without asking, he just like, it happened. But I think it's really thinking about, what do you want your life to look like? Because that can create pull when you don't have push of no, this is what it's going to look like. And this is what it's going to feel like. And that is going to be an awesome place to be. So that's where I ultimately want to go.
Well, and even though you have that passion and you are pushing, you're pulling, yourself, you're going through this process because you have this goal, you have this vision, that's, you see where you want to be. There's still hard times and there's still hard things. I mean, I'm a small business owner. I mean, probably once a month I'm like, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. Just let me go work for somebody. So what was harder about this journey, or still what's hardest about this journey as you were growing?
So
What's harder than you expected it to be, I guess I should say.
Yeah. So, well, and we've been talking about, like, I hate to say this out loud. I mean, the grind sort of lasts forever. I've been doing it for 20 years and I'm like, I should have this figured out by now. What is wrong with me? Or I know how to do this. Why am I not doing it? Right. So I think there's giving yourself grace. Like, there's things that go on in people's lives, all of those kinds of things. You know, there's certain times when you have to focus on something else, and it's just not all about the business or all about the family or all about whatever one aspect of your life. I think I go back to having the people around me. I mean, I tell people my key to success, knowing where I want to go. I got the vision. I know where I'm heading. I share that vision with people because I know other people around me can help me make that happen. Surround myself with awesome people, a BNI chapter, a BNI community. I have millions of stories about how a BNI member got me, and sometimes small things, but sometimes really big things that I was able to accomplish because I told someone, they said, I believe in you. Now let's go. And so I think it's surrounding yourself with a great community who you can also call up and be like, this was the worst day of my life. Because they'll say to you, oh, I had that happen to me too. This is how I got out of it. Maybe that'll be helpful. Or have you tried this? Have you tried that? Have you tried this? Have you tried that? Right. And so I think it's just having people around you to root for you is really critical, which most business owners do not have. Because we're all thinking, I'm out on my island by myself, which is why I just love that aspect of BNI that people have as well, because you've got this group of people who get you.
Yeah.
They really do get you.
Yeah. And I will echo that as far as, you know, I'm a member of BNI, one of your BNI chapters in North Alabama, the true North Alabama, not.
Yes. Yeah. You're in that area.
True North Alabama. And that, what you just said about having someone that says, I believe in you, now let's go. That's kind of what you're doing in a BNI chapter when you make a referral for somebody, because, you know, I'm a small business owner. Not everyone in the BNI chapter owns their own business, but they're in a business to help it grow. And when you make a referral to that person, you're saying to them, I believe in you, now let's go. I am putting my reputation on the line for you because I believe that you can do this. Go do it.
And a lot of times we also know each other's goals, right? Yes. We talk about goals personally and professionally. And so that's another thing. Like, I know what you're shooting for. So I want to help you as much as possible because it's a good thing for you to be shooting for that goal, and let's make it happen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I do encourage people, if you're not in BNI chapter, go check one out. You do find your tribe. You do find your people that can encourage you, help you, and certainly get business to you. And then you can help others. You want to pay it forward and help others. So, Meaghan, a couple other things I want to ask you before we wrap up here. If you could go back and give yourself advice about planning or preparing for where you're at now, what would you say?
Don't take it all so seriously. You can always pivot. It needs to be lighter. You just think you're making this way too heavy. Really. You look at people around you that are not around you, like in the world, who, had failures and then pivoted and found success. You have people who said, let me try business ownership. Oop, that wasn't for me, and went back to employee. Like, it doesn't matter. You can shift and pivot if you focus on what's best for you always. You can always shift and pivot. So just don't take yourself quite so seriously. Because stress, I think, is the biggest challenge that I ultimately have. And it's just because I make a much bigger deal out of things. I get to see it in my daughter. She's like a mini version of me. Just yesterday, she was sharing with me. She was just like, well, no, not yesterday. Earlier this week, I failed that test. That was the hardest test I've ever taken. And da, 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 da. So she called me yesterday to apologize about her antics and to tell me she is not a dramatic human being because she aced it. So I see exactly that behavior that I had, right? I just took everything so seriously because I wanted to be perfect, and it's not going to be perfect. Life is not perfect. So if you can just try and make it more of a game, less of a, oh my gosh, this is my life and I can make a detrimental decision. What if it's just the game of life?
Yeah.
And you get to roll the dice again next, and it just doesn't, just doesn't matter that much.
Well, for the woman who's listening, who feels that overwhelm and stress right now, and I know you said don't take yourself too seriously, are there practical things that she can do to try to help get through that overwhelm, not to take herself too seriously? What are some practical things that you do or did to get past that?
It's ask for help. I mean, I think some people feel like asking for help is a sign of weakness. I think women do it better than men, honestly, on average. But I think people worry about asking for help. Call up and ask for help. You would be dumbfounded at the people who would be willing to help you if you just ask. I don't get asked for help very often, but when I do, I drop it. I drop everything. We get it on the calendar and we make it happen. So ask people for help. You would be surprised at how generous people will be with their time and their energy.
Was there a time that you should have asked for help and you didn't? And if so, what did that cost you?
Oh, so I am super self-deprecating. So I think I have always felt like that's not true. I'm going to go all the way back to high school. I think I made that transition of not asking for help, not asking. Like, I didn't ask for help when I was at regular high school and things like that. But when I went to ASMS, I was like, you know what? Nobody here knows me. I can be anyone I want to be. I can be 100% me, because again, this is only a 2-year school. If I come in and I'm me and everybody hates me, I just move on to college and reinvent myself.
Yeah.
Right? So I think it was back then I didn't ask for help. I just was completely bottled up. And then somewhere in that journey, well, it was ASMS. I was one of the smarter kids in my school. Well, when you get lumped into all the smart kids from their school in Alabama, you learn, okay, I'm not going to be the best at everything in this place.
Yeah.
I was called well-rounded, which I laughed about. I was most athletic, which I also laugh about at the math and science school. But it was there that I realized, you know what? Like, why did I think I was so special? And then throughout my life, now I'm more self-deprecating. You probably know everything more than I do. So I'm going to learn from everyone that I come across, because I don't feel like I know everything. But here's a couple things I've tried. Here's a couple things I've read. Here's a couple things I've listened to. And then you just got to, and then the other thing is that it's not everything. I love the book, Everything Is Figureoutable. Right. I love the title. The book that's exactly what the book is all about. It's like a story after story about everything is figureoutable. So like, you can figure it out. You can absolutely figure it out, because you wouldn't have picked the thing you're trying to do if you weren't going to be good at it. Or if you did, that's the first pivot you got to make. Find something you're good at, you're passionate about, because you're going to need that to fuel the fire to keep going.
Well, I think also you just mentioned you had that curiosity. Like, I can learn from this person. I'm not the smartest person in the room. I learned that to my first day of law school. I was like, how did I even get in? With all these people around me, how did I even get in? And so you get humble, and you learn to be curious about others and to learn from others, and you realize that you're not the smartest person. I think when you have that curiosity and you have that, as you called it, self-deprecation, I call it humility, that
Yes,
I can learn from others.
absolutely.
And so I think that is, just key to success. And I think the key to not being overwhelmed, ask for help, ask people for help. And as we mentioned several times, BNI is a great resource. It's a great tool. You not only do you have the other people in your chapter, BNI offers a lot of educational tools, materials that you can learn from about business. So if you are a woman listening to this and you are thinking about going into your own business, we've interviewed somebody in season 1 who, before she launched her own business, she started visiting a chapter to kind of get a sense of things, and then she had her network of people and her advisors right there in that chapter.
And then the launch of the business.
And then the launch of the business
was ramped up because everybody knew her business and what she was accomplishing beforehand.
Yeah. So
absolutely.
Find a chapter, visit, like Meaghan said, visit several chapters. When I talk to people at BNI, of course I invite them to mine because I think mine's the best, but I invite them to mine. But I say go to other chapters because you have to find where it fits for you. And it's like Meaghan said, she had to find the one that's best for her. So one last question before we wrap up. I want you to finish this sentence. Legacy Her Way means?
Legacy Her Way means identifying what's most important to you, identifying what you want to say about your own life at the end of it, and then moving in that direction.
Very good. Well, Meaghan, we talked about BNI. How can people find BNI?
Okay, so you can go to BNI.com. You can go to northern.BNIAlabama.com. I am also doing a bunch of things that just to offer small business owners help virtually. So you can also, my name is super unique, so you can just type in Meaghan Chitwood and any of the platforms. That is the name that I use, and really find me. So do follow along, because I now am at a point in my life where I feel like we just need to help small business owners really make it easier for them, because I don't feel like there's enough resources for those small business owners. So I'm doing some things personally as well to help that cause.
That's great, because that's another whole podcast of how small business owners don't get the help that we need.
And all the books are written about these like venture capital success stories. And it's like, that's not me. I need a couple $1,000 and a truck to get started.
Yeah.
Like, let's go.
Yeah. So, there's so much. And oh gosh, that's a whole other podcast all its own. You're about to get me on a soapbox of small businesses need to be supported.
Absolutely.
If you have it's because it's the small business owners that help the community. It's not the big, huge corporations. It's the small businesses. We are the lifeblood of the community. So I appreciate all you do.
One thing I love about small business is we get to make an experience so much better, because the financial statement is not always our first go-to decision-making tool.
Correct.
The experiences. And so it is. Yeah, I love small business and what it can ultimately create.
That's perfectly sums it up. Yes. So thank you so much, Meaghan, for joining us on Legacy Her Way. If this episode spoke to you as the listeners, be sure to subscribe to Legacy Her Way. Just hit the subscribe button so you don't miss what's next. I'll see you all in the next conversation. Bye.